Welcome to the Spirit Sessions podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us, where I'll help you find your true spiritual home, where every single aspect of you is holy brown, holy brown, holy brown, holy brown.
This is a Spirit Session podcast with Katie Silcox. Venga chicos, empezamos.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hi everyone, Katie here. This podcast is intended to inspire you, educate you, and most importantly, support you on your journey towards knowing who you really are, that inner self, that inner teacher. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer professional health or medical advice on this podcast. If you are suffering from any kind of psychological or medical issue, please do the right thing and seek help from your qualified health professional. Hello, dear listener out there in podcast world. I hope you are enjoying this winter. I'm sitting here in Virginia. It has dumped a huge bucket of snow on us, and I am so happy for that. What an awesome experience, right? To be coated in this layer of wet whiteness. I am including in this week's podcast a recording of the webinar that we did this weekend. In case you missed it, here it is. What is the divine feminine form of Ayurveda anyways? Which, as you know, is sort of our signature move. It's our calling card. It's what we do. And I just felt super connected to this talk, and I really wanted to make sure we got it out in the podcast. And also to let you know that by the time this goes out, we will have just a little over a week left to register for level 1. Make sure you get your sweet little booty in school. 2025 promises to be our best year ever. I hope you enjoy this talk. Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay out there in Zoom world? All right. Thank you for taking your Saturday to be with us, you all. Hi, my name is Katie Silcox, and I know a few of you. I see some familiar faces in the room, but I see a lot of new people, and I've been watching the chat on the sidebar and see some of you from the Netherlands and Switzerland and Sweden. And it's so funny that you guys are all here from all over the world, especially some of the colder countries. So I'm in Virginia in the United States, and we have like 32 degrees here as well. We're expecting a lot of snow. So it's just a really wonderful time to do things like webinars. So some of you don't know me or the Shakti School or who we are. You found us through an Instagram or a Facebook ad. And I just want to say, hi, we are real people. We're real women. And we are so glad that you found us. And it's just super exciting to be able to take it from social media into a little bit closer into being real, into being human. And today is a topic that my staff actually picked out for me to talk about. And it's really the essence of everything that we do here at our school. Our school is called the Shakti School for a reason. And as you may or may not know, we have one thing that we do here. And that one thing that we do is a year-long program for women in Ayurvedic health education. We teach women how to love and heal themselves. And some of them go on and are inspired to be Ayurveda health coaches so that they can help other people. And our real mission is to create a non-dogmatic, non-ideological, non-partisan, non-polarized space where women can come and be in their bodies and to be in their intuition and to be in their silence and to be in their energy. And what we found, now this will be our 8th year, and I get tears in my eyes because we have such a magical experience every year. What we find is that when you give women amazing tools from their ancestors, when you give women awesome protocols, when you give women these techniques and these methodologies, and you give them room to be able to be quiet and calm enough to listen to that soft, still inner voice in their heart, women know how to heal themselves. Women know how to feed themselves. Women know how to, I love it, hug a mug. Women know how to nurture themselves because we are nurturers by nature. Some of us are really nurturing by nature, overly even, especially to other people. And we have to learn how to give that to ourselves. Some of you are here because you're like, I am so disconnected from my nurturing. I'm so disconnected from my feminine. What even is my feminine? Who is this Katie Silcox? Help me find my feminine. And I want you to know, like, we are here for you and we get you and we've got you. So, hi, my name is Katie Silcox. Not only am I the founder of the Shakti School, but like Rogaine for men, some of you are of the age group that you remember Rogaine, I'm also a user of the Shakti School. I am here and every single week of my life, I'm like, thank holy God for the Shakti School because I get to remember these teachings that are so, so life-changing. So we have an online academy for Ayurveda. And I often call it, it's an Ayurveda certification, but it's Lady Life School. We get to learn a lot of the things that many of us did not learn when we were young women, when we were little girls, things related to rituals around our hormones and our sexuality and our menstruation. And now many of us in perimenopause and menopause and the period post-menopause. Like these are all nebulous realms, and in some of our families, taboo realms. And so in Ayurveda, which is the science and study of Mother Nature, both inside of us and outside of us, we honor this lineage from the incredible subcontinent of India. India is where Ayurveda, it has its origins, and India has been holding this sacred information for 5,000 plus years. And I always say what's so cool about ancient wisdom is that 5,000 years is a long time to get it right, to test it out, to see what works, to throw out what doesn't, and to keep good information alive. We love India. I spent many, 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 many days of my life in India and just really enjoy the traditional teachings of Ayurveda. And when I was a young woman living in India, I would often come across the aunties, the grandmothers in India that would ask me, what are you doing here in our country? And I would say, I'm studying Ayurveda. And they would look shocked. And they would say, it's so interesting. Here you are, this, white girl from Virginia, United States, come to our country to study Ayurvedic medicine. And many of our young women want to put on blue jeans and go to the mall and listen to rap music. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. But they were just so surprised that I was so interested in their culture. And so I have lots of stories about that when you join level 1, I'll tell you the whole journey. But I have a long love affair with the continent of India, and spent 20 years studying tantric forms of yoga as well as Taoism. And so we love that tradition very much. And we always say in Shakti School, that's over here. And we need to understand the cultural context from which these teachings come, and to understand the teachings themselves. But if we deeply study Ayurveda, this crazy thing happens where the Ayurveda teachings themselves say Ayurveda is universal medicine for all living beings. Not only all humans, but all of life. Ayurveda is a first principles approach to understanding reality on planet Earth, and maybe even beyond that. And in Ayurveda, we're told to adapt the teachings to the time, the place, and the people in which they're being presented. And so guess what? That's you. And when we study the first principles of Ayurveda, the first principles say the feminine form of medicine is the place to begin. And we're going to talk today about what is feminine form medicine? What is feminine form healing? What is feminine form Ayurveda? And often people will say, well, what's masculine form? And then which one should I do? Because we have this idea that you have to pick one, or that one's better than the other, or that one's good and one's bad. And what these teachings say is that we need to start with the feminine, but we also need the masculine. You can kind of try that on for size in your own life. How many of you in the room, the Zoom room, feel like you have a masculine side and a feminine side? Yeah, right. It's like there's a part of me that's like soft and nurturing and sweet and receptive. And you may even call that Ginger Rogers. Yeah. And then you have Fred Astaire on the other side, who's like ambitious and wants to make her to-do list and get shit done and get everything off her checklist finished. And she has aggression, anger, intensity. She's a warrior. She's had to learn to stick up for herself. And we're secretly softies on the inside. And so I'm just describing the dynamic that can happen where we really do understand that we're working with duality. So Ayurveda says we start with this place of the feminine when it comes to our healing journey. And so I want to take a moment to talk about the reason we called this place the Shakti School. Shakti means feminine power, but it's in men and women. It's in all of life. It is the primal life energy in all of us. We started the school calling it Shakti School, not because we only want Shakti or feminine energy, but because the feminine has been so ignored for so long inside of our cultures all over the planet, not just the Western world. The feminine in all of us has been relegated to the basement of our consciousness. The feminine has been less valuable, even in some cases demeaned. And I know you can think about examples in your own life. What are we paid for in our culture? We're paid for being smart. We're paid for getting jobs done. And when we're little girls, when we go to school, we get an A+ when we get the right answer. We don't get an A+ when we have emotional intelligence as little girls. We get an A+ when we know how to fix what's wrong. We get an A+ when our bodies look a certain way. We get an A+ when we make our parents proud for our accomplishments. We get an A+ when we get it right. Now, there's nothing wrong with accomplishments and a healthy body and, doing great things in the world and having a smart mind and making money and getting it right. We don't want to demonize that either, but we are missing the true essence of who we actually are. So Ayurveda says this feminine realm is where all healing starts from. What does that mean? Well, let's look at what it's not, and that will help us understand what it is. When it comes to our healthcare, whether it be Western medicine, allopathic, medical doctor, healthcare, or traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, holistic health, naturopathy, functional medicine, across the board, when it comes to our healthcare, we are often given a message from all of those systems that something's wrong and let's figure out how to fix it. Take a pill, get a diagnosis, go to a psychotherapist and figure out how your mom and dad messed you up and then fix it, right? Problem, solution. Something's broken. I'm going to put it back together. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. If your leg is broken, run to the hospital, right? Don't start opening your heart to the divine, right? Like sometimes we have to get to the emergency room and get it fixed. But Ayurveda says that if we really want to heal, we have to understand the true definition of what health even is. The true definition of health, according to this system, is so eloquent and so beautiful and takes you right to the heart of being a messy human being. And that is the word in Sanskrit, svasta. It means health. But if we break down the Sanskrit, it takes us on a journey. And sva means the truth of who you really are, your essence. And all of us have an essence that's inherently priceless, worthy, beautiful. They call it the diamond that needs no other light from the outside to shine. Who you really are in your essence is a diamond light. Valuable. And then the word sta means to be standing in it. So we talk about women's empowerment. This is the real deal. Svasta, she's who's standing in the truth of her total and utter value. She who's standing in the truth of who she really is when she takes off all the masks. Isn't that crazy, guys? Like, that's the definition of health in Ayurveda. Sign me up. Okay, I'm ready to practice this stuff. So the feminine says, all of our imbalances come. Well, not all of them. Sometimes you just get stung by a bee, right? But most of our imbalances come from a forgetting of who we really are. So what's so amazing about this school is that when I started studying Ayurveda, it was very much because I didn't feel good, had really bad digestion. I suffered from debilitating panic attacks. I was very young and struggling with insomnia, digestive issues, you name it. I had it going on. Endometriosis, I healed through Ayurveda, through castor oil packs and herbs and diet. All of those things around digestion and fertility and menstruation. We have modules on all of that in the school. And I realized that my yoga practice was not helping me fix those problems. And then I discovered there's this healthcare system that's always rode alongside the yogic practice. And so I moved to India and studied it. And then I got a master's degree in it. And I studied with awesome teachers, many of whom I have now contracted to be your teachers when you guys come to level 1, if you choose to come. And so I had this amazing experience with Ayurveda and fell in love with it. But at the end of my Ayurveda studies, I was like, wow, I started to study trauma release, the nervous system. And I was so fortunate to find a mentor 7 years ago that was one of the world's experts in trauma release and the nervous system. And she was also a tantric Buddhist practitioner. And I began to realize, oh my God, the Ayurveda education that I had was almost identical to the Western medical education I'd had. And that was figure out the root of the problem and fix it. Follow the rules of Ayurveda, just like you followed the rules of yoga and you followed the rules when you were a little girl in school. Figure out what the rules are, and then you're finally going to be perfect and put together and shiny and valuable. And so without throwing off on my Ayurveda education, I loved my teachers and I loved my school. I knew something is fundamentally missing from my education. And I was learning it with my mentor, who was a woman, and she taught me and is teaching me the ways of the feminine. What was missing from all of my upbringing and all of my religion and all of my yoga and all of my Ayurveda education was the deep honoring of the intuitive as the sacred holy realm that no one can take from you and no one can give to you. The feminine is the realization that every woman knows deep down what she needs to do next. And that wisdom, that clear seeing insight can't come from a rule book. It can't come from a food list. It can't come from an herbal protocol. It can't come from a good meditation protocol. It can only come from you getting quiet. And as one of my teachers says, feeling the tender warmth of the body when you let go of thinking. I'll say that again. The tender warmth of the body when you let go of thinking. So, what is the feminine in Ayurveda? Whereas the masculine asks the very valid question, what's wrong and how can I fix it with a protocol or an herb or a pill or a surgical methodology, which is valuable. The feminine says, wait a minute, what was the context in this woman's life when her imbalances began? That is a sacred question. What was going on in this woman's life? What was going on when she was a little girl? What was going on when she was in her mother's body? These are sacred questions that can take a lifetime to look at, but this is what the feminine asks of us. I heard a statistic that the average medical doctor spends less than 5 minutes with each patient. And they've done studies in Western medical educational centers where if the doctor spends those 5 minutes with those people, but they ask one question, their indices of healing or curing their patient goes up by 50%. And they didn't spend any more time with them. They just asked the person one question. Hey, have you been under a lot of stress lately? When doctors asked patients this one simple question and gave the patient even 1 minute to respond, the index of health increased by 50%. Now imagine in Ayurveda, we ask you at least 250 contextual questions about your life, about your body, about your history, about your relationship, about your relationship to your sexuality, about your relationship to your origin of upbringing, about the way that your lifestyle is right now, and on and on and on. The feminine medicine is that the context is everything. And then let's figure out good protocols and good herbs and sometimes even good pills. Let's help our body as much as we can through fixing things. But we start from this place of the feminine that moves us from the head to the heart. I want to read you a quote from Tara Brach. Some of you may know her. She's one of my teachers. When you meditate, try not to think about what's wrong or what's happening in your life. Rather, let your awareness be seated in the tender warmth you feel in your body. And if you do this, any meditation practice you do will be fruitful. Come into your body and the tender awareness within your own experience. If we trace all of our imbalances back to their root, what we find and what I see in myself, you guys, and what I see in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and now thousands of women that have come through our program is that so much of our suffering comes from a feeling of separation. Separation from others, but mostly separation from ourselves. I know for me, and I know for so many of the women that I've had the absolute honor and privilege of being privy to their healing journey, so much of this healing path is about recognizing when we have been and when we are in self-abandonment. Self-abandonment is when we go against our greater knowing, when we deny that still small voice that says, hey, this would be the best thing to eat tonight. Hey, Why don't you do less on your calendar and sleep a little more this month? Hey, that person that you're dating is not so great for you. Hey, it might be time to call a therapist. On and on and on. We get these messages from our intuitive knowing. This is the feminine. So much of what we are working to do in this course is about giving ourselves the opportunity and the time to practice the opposite of self-abandonment, which is no matter who you are or where you find yourself in this moment, no matter what you have going on in your life, no matter how much you feel like you might have messed things up or you might be behind or any of these emotions that all of us come into contact with, we can show up for ourselves. We can open to the experience with a loving heart. This is the essence of the feminine. On the healing journey, I want to say this before we look at some of the practical things that Ayurveda offers, and I hope many of you will feel inspired to take the plunge with us. We start, as some of you know, January 15th. That's very, very soon. And we have a year-long program because it really does take at least a year to outline the deep principles of Ayurvedic medicine and healthcare, as well as to really steep ourselves in the practices that are super transformational. It takes at least a year. And one of the core precepts of the feminine form is that, okay, this is, I wonder if you're out there, if this resonates. I know for me, this has been so challenging and so beneficial. And that is the very thing about myself that I find the most intolerable is where the most medicine is. The things that we're running from about our emotions are where the medicine sits. And I don't know about you, but I have figured out throughout my lifetime very creative ways to avoid feeling my feelings. The feminine form medicine is the radical willingness to open up to those parts of ourselves that feel like the biggest wounds. I know this group of women that are gathered here, you guys are probably already hip to this, but it is a practice of the wound is the way. And it's initially kind of counterintuitive because we've all gotten really good at building up our barriers and our walls and our defenses. We're comfortable with certain aspects of ourselves and we're really uncomfortable about other parts of ourselves. And so feminine form healing is counterintuitive initially. It's saying the feeling that I'm avoiding is actually the thing I need to open to the most. This is the opposite of what feels comfortable. So the feminine is a radical acceptance of all parts of us as a part of the healing journey. Raise your hand if you have a part of you that you like the most. It's your part you present to the world. I call mine the golden girl, the Ayurveda girl, the girl who wrote a book about Ayurveda. And look, she's on the back and she's blonde and she's smiling and the sun is hitting her at the right angle. If you have my book, you know what I'm talking about. That photo on the back, that's my persona. You have one too. And all of our personas might look really different, but we all have one. And it's the part of us that we're comfortable presenting. Ayurveda feminine form healing says that part of you is like the least useful on the journey to self-love. Feminine form healing is self-esteem. And what is that? And how do I get it? Because I've been hearing it all my life. Just learn how to love yourself and have good self-esteem. And it has nothing to do with taking baths and putting oil on your body and finding a new face mask and having self-care rituals. That can be helpful. But real self-love is a willingness to turn towards the part of me that I would rather no one know about and no one see. So we do a lot in this community with what some of you may be familiar with called shadow work. working with the part of me that's in the shadow. Maybe I know it's there and I put it in the shadow, but often it's in the shadow, so I can't even see it's there. And it's not until I've built up a certain amount of self-love and self-acceptance that I can even begin to start to look at it. So the feminine is about the wound is the way. There's so many more things I could tell you all, but I have 2 more that I want to speak to. And then we're going to look at some of the practical ways we can work with the feminine in our school and in this system. The other thing that the feminine is about holding a sense of deep openness and curiosity towards this moment as a portal into healing. When we go into our healing journey thinking we know the right way and thinking we have all the answers and thinking we know exactly how to fix ourselves, we're actually kind of far from the spontaneous, mysterious, magical realm that can occur when we're just here with ourselves now. So the feminine is also this sense of childlike curiosity around our experience. We actually don't know what's about to happen. When we sit down to meditate, when we put our hand on our heart and our belly and we breathe there, we don't know what images, what emotions, what insights, what intuitive downloads. We don't know what's going to come. And so, whereas the masculine form of healthcare and medicine and healing say, I've got the answers. And that's nice sometimes. We want our doctor to have the answers. Yeah, that's good. So we don't need to demonize that. But the feminine is different. The feminine says, I don't know. And in that not knowing, I can actually quietly hear the wisdom that rises from the bottom up. Our body is the sum total storehouse of 2 things. Our past experiences that we haven't fully processed yet. In Ayurveda tradition, we call this karma. In modern language, I know many of you speak, we have a new word for what the ancients called karma. We now call it trauma. Yeah, everybody's into trauma healing now. Yeah. In the old school, yogis are going, yeah, that's just really rough karma, and some karma feels good. But working through the past experiences that haven't digested in our system yet, this is the essence of Ayurveda. This is the essence of all of our lineages, shamanic traditions, soul retrievals. And so when we work with our body, when we work with our nervous system, and when we work with our sensations and our emotions, we allow that process to come to some completion. But here's the other side of the equation. When we work from the bottom up, when we work through our energy and our body, what we also access is our deep prajna. That's a Sanskrit word that means clear, seeing wisdom. When we work from the bottom up, we get an insight into clear, seeing wisdom. How amazing would it feel to know what to do next in your life? I know for me, how many of us we've felt, oh my God, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I not do this? Prajna, clear seeing wisdom, that at any given moment in time, you could have more and more and more access to knowing what to do now and now again. And so this is a huge part of the feminine form. I'm going to read you guys a poem that sort of speaks to those 2 things. It's by a writer named Jeff Foster. And I brought this poem to the class today because I was thinking what I wanted to share with you guys all week. And one of the things that I've really been working with and that I've seen in so many of our students is this abandonment wound. And so the poem goes like this. If abandonment is the core wound we all carry, the disconnection from other, the loss of wholeness, then the most potent medicine is this ancient commitment to never abandon yourself, to discover wholeness in the whole mess, to become a loving mother to your insides, to hold the broken bits in your loving awareness, to illuminate the sore places with the light of the only love that ever really mattered. And that is the one that you've learned to give yourself. This is the essence of feminine healing. So if that sounds like something that you might be needing a little bit of, join the club. This is a lifelong journey. As I always say, we are a school that has no enlightened people, where none of us are fully baked. None of us are fully enlightened. We are definitely just like you. We're little half-baked buns in the oven of the enlightenment process. We also are a place where there are no gurus other than the inner teacher that lives in our hearts. And when we come together as a community, the guru is the Sangha. And that's an old way of saying the teacher, the wisdom, the channel of that wisdom comes through the community, the Sangha. And so we're very much committed to those principles. We have a program, as you know, it starts January 15th. And in that, we have many teachers. I am the core teacher. I'm the primary teacher, especially in the beginning of your journey. I teach all of the philosophy in the Shakti School. And in that program, we start the year with what I call the eagle eye visions. What are the big picture philosophies and principles and remembrances that guide us throughout the year? And one of those is this feminine form medicine. And so we spend a lot of time in the very beginning really steeping ourselves in feminine form wisdom and practices that help awaken that in us. And then we move into the traditional philosophies and teachings of Ayurveda. Now, I think many of you might have heard of the famous Ayurveda 3 doshas. And so we spend a lot of time on the doshas. If you're just joining us and you don't know what they are, they're a really cool lens, right, for seeing reality that's based on the principles of the 5 elements. And we spend a lot of time talking about those in the first couple classes with level 1. And the basis of that is that when you're born, you are a divine combination of what the tradition calls earth, water, fire, air, and space. And you may be like, what's that? And so we break those down into a way that's super intuitive that everybody can grok and understand. But essentially, the quick and dirty on it, in case I don't see you again, I still want you to get a lot out of today, but I hope you'll be inspired to come and be with me for a whole year. But let's talk about it. The first one is the principle of earth. And we all have it. Some of you have more of it in the room, and I'm looking at the front row. I see some of you have more earth than others. I can see it in your face. And we learn how to see that in our structure, in our bones, in our eyes, in our skin, in our hands. But what is it? Earth is the principle of stability. It's heaviness. And that doesn't mean, overweight. It means heavy. Some of you in the Zoom room today have heavier bones than others. We might look at you and think you look exactly the same, and then you feel someone's bones, and some of you are light boned, and some of you are heavy boned. My teacher would say, everybody has the earth element if they have a body. The body itself is the principle of earth. And then there's the principle of water. And water is the principle of movement and liquidity. What can water do? Water is the unique element that can adapt. The river takes the form of the earth that she meets. When she gets to the ocean, the river becomes the ocean. Water in your body is everything that's wet, which is most of your body. It's the lubrication in the body. Some of you have more water than others. And y'all all have to join level 1. I'm getting so excited because I don't have time to do this in an hour long. But guess what? Earth has an emotional quality. You can imagine more stability, more groundedness. Watery people, you guys are the kind that can start crying at any movie, right, on the planet. And I know I've worked with women enough to know women have more water. We do. We're watery. All of the hormones in your body travel along the pathway of liquid. Hormones are liquid messengers. As we age, all of us are losing water. So if you were born with more water than others, you're lucky. My teacher would say, watery people have a baby face even when they're in old age. Babies are super watery. You don't believe me? Who's always drooling, snotting? Babies. Babies are water balls. And some of us have more fire. What is fire? Fire is the principle of change and transformation on a cellular level. Fire is what takes wood and turns it into ashes. Fiery people have more of a medium bone structure. And I notice fire in the skin, rosy cheeks, good color, right? Fiery people also tend to get acne that's red, eczema that's red, rashes, inflammation is a fire imbalance. All of us have fire if our neurons are firing. All of us have fire in our digestive system. We keep our bodies at 98.6 degrees, but some of you are born with more fire than others. Fire people tend to be more ambitious, aggressive, intense. And then there's the emotional realm. Fire people are going to be fiery. What's the one word we could attach to the word emotions and fire? Passion. Fire is your passion. And from there, fire can do things. We can use our passion to do good for our communities, and we can use our fire to burn down the community. We can use our fire in our relationship to awaken the lover's heart, or we can use our fire to get angry at our partner and critical of our partner, right? So there's this whole world. I have a lot of fire, as you may see, and that world we go into in depth in level 1 of the poetry and the alchemy of knowing what are my elements and where are they showing up in my body and my life. And then you have the element of air, and that is for some of you really intense, and you were born with a lot of air. And air is this also principle of movement. Think about air as the wind. We define the wind as that which is always changing and moving through space. Some of you have a lot of wind, and in the body, we can see it through the features that are long and lanky. The bones tend to be more thin. The features tend to be more fine and irregular. And there's nothing bad about it. It's beautiful, but it's irregular. And in the skin, this shows up as dryness. Why? Because the wind makes things dry. And then we go through 200 to 250 data points on your body in the first couple classes of Ayurveda school, where you get to see, oh my God, you know, this is so much more than doing a quiz online, which you can go do. But it really is like a deep, multiple hour deep dive into learning what is my elemental makeup that I was born with, because that doesn't change. And then you have this last realm, which is the realm of ether, and that's space. And so it's by definition the absence of other elements. It's the spaces in between your organs, space in the mind. It's etheric. And some of you and you're rare, by the way. If you are primarily an ether woman, you're probably a priestess. You're probably a healer. You're probably a poet or an artist. Ether people are super rare. And they're very interesting. And they're very connected to the spiritual world, because it's almost as if they have one foot in material world and one foot in another world. Some of you are that woman, or you have a lot of ether. And I want to say I am a little bit etheric as well. And, you know, to have a place where your gifts and talents are honored is very rare. Our culture loves fire people. And our culture especially loves fire people who have enough earth and water so that they can keep going forever, right? Our culture loves what we would call pitta kaphas, and the doshas are vata, pitta, and kapha. And the doshas are a combination of the 5 elements. So when you put earth and water together, you get what we call kapha, which is the principle of that heaviness and that stability and that lubrication. And it's like, what happens when you mix earth, mud, or rather dirt, and water? You get mud. And that's kapha. And it's like, ooh, mud. But mud is what is holding the building you're sitting in together. You know, like cement, bricks, mortar, that's kapha. That's mud. And then the physical body, it's your bone, it's your muscle, it's your fat. That's good, right? Some of you have more of that. And in the mind, that is mental, emotional stability and resiliency. Kapha. But it has a dark side. Do you want to know it? Okay. The dark side to kapha is that mud is sticky, and mud likes to hold on to things, and mud doesn't want to go anywhere. And so that's very, very beautiful. But the shadow side to it is that you might be a hoarder. You might have too many material things. You might have a hard time letting go. You might have a lot of attachment to people. Yeah. And we have a strong principle at the Shakti School that we don't make anything bad or wrong. It's just bringing awareness. So kapha people can get caught in their emotions that are more heavy. And that's sadness and lethargy and depression and grief. And there's nothing wrong with those emotions. But kapha tends to get stuck in them. And so throughout the year, I hope all of you will come. We help teach kapha how to get unstuck. One great thing you can start with right now is if you're like, oh man, I think I might be a kapha. Start doing things that stimulate you. Dry brush yourself. Get in a sauna. Jump rope. Go on a jog. Go trance dancing. Hello. And eat foods that are stimulating, like ginger and cinnamon, and uplift it. Kapha has to be stimulated. And then when you mix fire with a little bit of oil or water, you get what we call pitta. Pitta dosha. Pitta is the combination of fire and a little bit of oil. You can imagine putting a little bit of gasoline on a bonfire. Water, in that sense, ignites it. This principle, so amazing, so beautiful. It's the aspect of you that can transform you from who you were in the past to who you know you could be. Amazing. Fire. But when we're imbalanced, it leads to burnout, stress, inflammation in the body, irritation, irritability, criticism. And guess what, guys? What I see with a lot of women, that criticism is directed internally. Self-criticism. So we teach fiery women how to use their fire for their passions and their ambition and their spiritual insight. clarity, without burning out, without perfectionism. So you might be a fire type if you suffer from perfectionism. Anybody finding themselves in any of this and feeling, oh God, I see a little bit of myself, right? Me too. Because you're all three, but you have a combination of them, and you're going to have more of probably one. We at Shakti School help you figure out, okay, what is that percentage? And what was I when I was born? And how can I awaken the life-giving, life-affirming aspects of it to fulfill my destiny? And how can I reduce the negativity around it that's keeping me from my destiny? Now, we have one more dosha, right? And so when you put air and space in a room together, what happens? Air moving through a room is wind. And we call that dosha that we all have a little bit of, vata. And vata is that which degenerates things. And it might sound bad, right? Degeneration? Ew, I don't want to be that type. It's also known as the principle of death and destruction. Nobody wants to be that, right? But some of you were born with more of that in your constitution. And guess what? There is hope. Degeneration, the process of breaking things down is what enables new things to be born. So that in the body might look like drier skin or more brittle bones or airiness in the mind, aka where are my keys, aka there's a reason in our language we say he or she is spacey, spaced out, space cadet. I mean, we're literally saying Ayurveda. Mine tends to be more space. You may think, this sounds terrible. Who would want to be that dosha? But the good thing about this dosha is that it is from empty space from which all creative ideas come, through which all spiritual insights, through which all prayers can be launched. And so vata, this third dosha, I could make the case might be the most spiritual of constitutions. As I said before, they tend to make great healers and priestesses and intuitives and artists. You might be one of those people, writers, painters. Yeah. So if you have a lot of vata, I really hope that you'll join our school in 2025, because we teach vata people how to get grounded and how to stay warm and wet and juicy for as long in her life as possible. And I'm one of you. I have a lot of vata in my constitution. I can't get away with anything. Some of you get away with stuff. So, remember when you were in college and you could get away with stuff, or high school when you were in your 20s, like what you could do and get away with? If you have a lot of vata in your constitution, you might have been in college and not been able to get away with anything. And for me, I couldn't get away with drinking all night long. Even as a college student, I couldn't get away with that. And so there's a blessing in that I had to learn from a really young age how to take care of my body and take care of my mind. So if you're a vata out there listening, or you have a lot of vata, we've got you. And we're going to teach you how to get a lot more resiliency and vitality and juiciness so that you can grow and age with more and more wetness and unctuousness and vitality. And yes, youthfulness for as long as possible. So especially if you're a vata, please come to level 1. We're really going to keep you resilient for a long period of time. So there's so much more I want to tell you guys, but I need to say this before we close. I want to honor my staff taking out of their Saturday to be here for free with us. So I want to close on time as much as I can, but here's where things get tricky. And this is why I'm really excited for our year together if you join us, because you were born with a specific mind-body type. You got it from mama and daddy. It's not going to change. And you may be like, oh my God, no, I don't want what I got from mom and dad exactly. But here's where it gets complicated. When you go through the challenges, stresses, and experiences of your life, the thing that you were when you were born gets covered up by the imbalances that you've accrued over the history of your life. So what you were, that unique doshic mind-body type when you were born, that's what you are, and we want to get you back to that. But we don't know what it is because the imbalances we've built up over our lifetime might be radically different from what we were when we were born. Do you guys, y'all understand what I mean? Let me give you a really quick example. I used to see women one-on-one for a decade and work with them with Ayurvedic medicine. The most common example I'll give you, I see it all the time. Women will come to me and they'll feel, you know what? I just don't feel comfortable in my body. I'm 50 pounds overweight. And maybe they're even more, and they don't want it. Yeah. And this isn't about body shape or size. We love and honor all body shapes, but it's common. Women come, they feel like they've been out of balance and they want to get back to their original, what I call the God body, just the right place for you. And you look at them and you say, oh, they have excess weight. Well, I learned in Ayurveda school that that's water and earth. So they must be a water earth type because they have excess weight. Oh my God, what a mistake. When you begin to look at that woman's constitution from the depths, looking at her bones, looking at her facial features, looking at the weight of her bones, looking at her hand shape, looking at her hair, looking at her skin, when you begin to talk with her and you learn about her emotions and her fear and her anxiety and her insomnia, lo and behold, you uncover the truth of her nature is that she is actually space. And she's air. She's light. Her bones are small. Her skin is thin. She's sensitive because Vatas are the most sensitive type. She feels the feelings of everyone in the room. She may even be psychic, empathic, clairsentient. And what did she do? She put on earth and water as a barrier to feel safe in her body on this weird planet. That's the most common example. Then you help her feel safe in her body. And Zoom user, hi. I think you just described me. I know, I just described me. That's me, the lady I'm telling you about. You help her feel safe, and all of a sudden, all that extra earth and water that she just doesn't need. You see, I'm tearing up because it's a lot of us. That goes away. And you go, she was never a kapha. She was a vata hiding inside a kapha body. We've got 3 minutes. I'm going to give you one more example because some of you are like, that wasn't me. Give me another example. Okay, here you go. You know that woman that's dealing with panic attacks or anxiety, and you're like, oh, well, I learned in Ayurveda school that that's air and space, fear. She must be a Vata type. And you go, okay, let me give you some practices for grounding, for feeling safe in the body. Let's eat some warm and wet foods. Let's get you sleeping. Let's get you safe, feeling safe. And all of a sudden, this crazy, wild, passionate tigress woman comes out and she's actually really pissed off. She's super angry. She's never felt it. She's mad at her husband. She's mad at her parent. All this anger and all this fire. And you go, oh my God, she was walking around with all this fear. But that's not who she really is. And when we peel away the fear, we realize, shit, I'm fiery. I just didn't feel safe to feel anger. In my family, anger was not allowed. And now this passion of her true nature can have a voice. And I could give you tons of examples. And that's why you can see it in me. I'm in love with this school. I get to go to Shakti School every year. It starts January 15th. It runs throughout the whole year. We're doing this webinar to let you know about it. At the end of the webinar, my staff is going to send you guys a PDF full. It's like made for you all. It's so beautiful. It's a little ebook on the doshas, on how to recognize them in yourself, how to work with them, some self-care practices. So everyone who's been here, thank you. Those of you that are watching not live, you'll all get that packet, that ebook. So we just give that out of love, no pressure, no commitment, but listen up. We've got a magical thing that's going to happen January 15th. If you are meant to be there and something that I said touched your heart, resonated with you, do not wait on this. 2025 is going to be another year where it might be helpful to have a spiritual home, a community that loves you. I mean, that's what we are. We are a group of women that lift each other up. That's the rule. You come here, we prioritize your parasympathetic nervous system. Rest, digest, heal, support, and lift each other up. We would love to have you. If money's a thing, we have tried, we make a joke here at Shakti School. It's like Oprah, you get a payment plan, you get a payment plan. We have like 6 different payment plans, and we even have a 24-month payment plan. What that means is you can come for a year and you get it over the course of 2 years. You can pay for it. I don't know. Sarah's in the chat box. I think it's like $150, $180 a month. So we want to make it happen for you. If money is a thing, we'll figure out a payment plan for you. I want anybody who's meant to be in the school to be able to come. And let me say one more thing about that. My name is Katie Silcox. I did not grow up with a lot of money. I've had to learn how to make it. And one of the things that makes me super happy is teaching women in the spiritual healing arts community how to make money. I love it. It's my passion. So I have this thing, we're putting it out on the podcast. It's about how I teach women how to make $100,000 in the first year after they complete Ayurveda school. I give you guys at the end of level 1, my way that I was just like you all. If you are here because you want to make money, we got you. Some people do the school. They don't need the money. They don't want to be an Ayurveda health coach. They want the content. They want to do it for themselves. But if you are wanting to make this a part of your current offering, or we've had so many women, my staff can tell you, we've had so many lawyers quit that and become Ayurveda health coaches. I teach you how to get to a 6-figure income. It is the way I did it. So my hope is that the $3,400 that you invest in the course, I show you how you can make that back immediately through your coaching business. So I hope that that also can inspire you. Like, this is not just an online course. This is a way that women can actually have a career. And I teach you also how to do the spiritual work, energetic work, and psychological work around valuing yourself for your gifts, if you do choose to share this with the world. Yeah, I could talk forever. You guys can see that. I'm very in love with this and very passionate about it. I can see so many of you. I can see your faces. And I just really appreciate you guys taking time out of your weekend to be with us. If you have any questions at all, you can talk to Sarah or Kiki. They are in the chat. We also have 6 amazing coaches that will have a phone call with you. If you're like, God, this is a big life decision. Like, it's an investment. I want to talk to a real person. We can set up a call with you, a 30-minute coaching call, to see if it's the right fit for you. The women that would talk to you have all been you. They've been students in our program that are now our coaches, and they're all amazing, amazing, cool women. So if you want to talk to somebody, Sarah will put all of that in the chat. You can also email us at info@theshaktischool.com. We're happy to speak with you. Well, ladies, it's been an absolute pleasure to see new faces. It's so fun. This is truly my heart. Thank you for coming. Look for the email from us, open it up, get the PDF, and hopefully so many of you today. There's 67 of you, I think a few more. It would just be so rad to have so many of you with us January 15th. Don't wait on it. I'll see you hopefully January 15th. See you guys. Thank you guys so much. A big special thanks to Kevin Carlisle of Goodbye Gemini who wrote this beautiful podcast music, and to DJ Juan Pablo Jimenez in southern Spain for mixing it and making it magic.